Hello and welcome to the Profitable Coach Podcast. I'm your host, Kimberly Rich, head coach at Transformation Academy. From seasoned experts sharing their hard-earned wisdom to rising stars navigating their journey, every episode uncovers the stories, strategies, and lessons behind what it takes to create massive impact and income as a coach. This show is brought to you by Transformation Academy and the Impact Coaching Collective. If you're ready to be inspired, take action, and build the coaching business of your dreams, well, then you are in the right place. Let's dive in. Welcome to episode number 69 of the Profitable Coach Podcast. Today I have with me transformational speaker, confidence expert, and business leadership coach, JJ Villar. JJ is the co-author and co-creator of Next Life Next, which is a powerful book and mastermind community designed to create radical breakthroughs in your life. In today's conversation, we deep dive into all of the incredible rock bottoms that JJ has faced and the way that he negotiated his path with God to turn his life around, create a service-oriented, mission-driven, heart-led life that is truly extraordinary and so inspiring. I'm really grateful to have JJ as a friend and to bring his story to you all because I find it so empowering when we take back our story and we turn our toughest moments into treasure that we can use to help other people live a truly meaningful life. There's really nothing better. So without further ado, please welcome to the show, the one and only JJ Villar. Welcome back to the Profitable Coach Podcast. I'm really enthused and grateful to have with me today, JJ Villar. JJ, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
JJ, I have to admit, I have already been talking about you with my coaching clients inside of Transformation Academy's community. And the reason being, one of the things that comes up so often inside of our containers is like, how do I get clients? How do I tell people that I'm a coach? And the reason I invited you on the show is because you embody what I think it means to be of service and to be like a living example of how you help people. And I was like, this guy's a coach. And he never told me he was a coach. I could just feel it in the way that he lives his life and the way he represents himself. So I just wanted to start with an acknowledgement and tell you, I'm already talking about you.
Well, I appreciate that. I'm flattered at the highest level, and I'm excited because hopefully it inspires somebody or it adds value to people that I have never met. And that's my one hope in life, is to truly be that pebble that creates the ripple effect of change, even when you're not present.
I love it. I love it. So for people who have never met JJ, I feel really lucky because the universe had us in the same rooms more than once over the past 5 years. And then just a couple weeks ago, we crossed paths again at Funnel Hacking Live. And I was immediately drawn to you because I was like, I know this person. Like, I've seen his face. I know his soul. Like, I got to go talk to him. And so I'm happy to have you here today so I can get to know you on a deeper level and get to share some of your magic with the audience. So for those of you who have never met JJ, tell us a little bit about what was your first introduction to personal growth, to coaching, whatever you want to call it, whatever resonates.
That's a beautiful question. And I will say the short end of it, my first true introduction after a long time of thinking, where did it all start, was my first arresting officer. When I was, I think, 11 or 12, that it was a very hard-hitting moment in my life because I don't know, you're old enough to remember the DARE program in the United States. That used to be a huge thing. And back then, in the early 90s, I was the award winner for the DARE program essay competition in my city of Simi Valley, where I got to meet the mayor and read my essay. And I was all about helping kids get off the streets and get off drugs. And this was before ever really diving into the world of drugs and going down the wrong path of the tracks. And long story short, I ended up going down the wrong path of the tracks into the drug and the gang world. And when I got into that world, my DARE officer that helped me win, and he was the one that really helped me help other people at that age. I think I was 11. He was my first arresting officer. when I got into trouble with drugs and being a runaway and getting into gangs. And I remember him just this look of disappointment because he believed in me. And his words, his name was Officer Street. And I can't remember exactly what his words were, but I do remember the effect that they had on me. And it was, if I paraphrase here, it was like, you know, who you are going to be around will determine your life. And I didn't understand it then. And your parents tell you all this, tell me who your friends are. I can tell you what your future's like, and you don't never want to really listen to your parents. But that was truly my first introduction to personal growth, because it talked about in layman's terms the power of proximity, and those that you're going to model. And I can go into the psychology of that, but that was my hello subliminal seed from God saying, you are going to do something with this in your life and you're going to use it at some point. And I used to think it was like Tony Robbins and all the other wonderful people that have radically transformed my life or been, my Yodas along the way. But my first true introduction was him.
I love that. Can we go back to the part where you assumed my age? No, I was alive for the DARE program.
Listen, first of all, whatever age you are, you fine. You're doing something right. Tell me your beauty regimen so we can trade some secrets, but whatever.
We can keep it real here on the show. So it was 11-year-old JJ getting truth bombed by his DARE officer. Did you listen?
I did not at all in any way, shape, or form. Hell
Tell
no.
us more.
No, I went down into hardcore drugs, selling on the street, high school dropout, 15-year-old runaway. I was the degenerate that every family member warned you about. I was the guy that was stealing your cars and doing the dumb shit, hurting people. I remember. I just got chills even thinking about this. I haven't thought about this. Lord, forgive me. I remember breaking into a church and stealing their sound system, and doing just kids things, and all in search for love and acceptance and feeling like I mattered and wanting to have that family essence. I didn't come from a horrific family. I can say this now, but back then you would have asked me. I came from abuse, from mental and physical and emotional, and I had to see and witness sexual abuse, and it wasn't something that I at that age knew how to handle. And I thought that the best remedy for that was running away. And I wanted to become, I remember, I wanted to become a man. I wanted to become a good man. I wanted to become a good person. And in fact, I moved into this apartment where I'm in now about 2 years ago, and I just recently unpacked my last box. And in my last box, I found a copy of the 7-page letter that I left my father in his shaving kit box when I ran away from home. And reading it now as an adult, I just got chills again. Reading it now, I remember what I thought I had written in that letter and why I thought I had ran away was so far from the actual truth once I read that letter again. And it taught me how much our brain distorts, dilutes information throughout the years through traumatic experiences that we hold on to. But going back to that space, it's like I had to go through the trenches, and I made conscious and deliberate choices that, thank God, took me through the worst of the worst to help build the man that can see the best of the best, which helps me help other people.
I mean, if anyone goes to your social media or your website right now, they can see you've created a pretty epic life. You've done some pretty amazing things and become what I would call a master at certain crafts. How did you go from this 15-year-old runaway to someone who's dancing on some of the biggest stages?
Okay, well, first, are you stalking me? And if you are, you need to call me.
It's called
okay?
research.
Oh, That's what the kids are calling it nowadays. Okay, so I get it. In dating, we call it research. I get it. Okay, no. Um, so yes, I when you hit enough rock bottoms, you hear this cliche saying that it says, the best thing about hitting rock bottom is that there's only one place to go. That's up, right? That's such bullshit. Because when you hit rock bottom, believe me, with a fine tooth or pick or the smallest of needles, you can dig deeper and you can go further. And it's like saying, for every level, there's another devil, and for every devil, there's another level. That goes both up and down, sideways and forward,
I
And
hadn't heard
also,
that.
I do believe that there isn't only one way to go up, there's multiple ways, and one that's the worst is staying there. And so when I started seeing this and I started looking around, and after negotiating many times of being locked up and doing dumb things and having my past catch up to me, I remember the many of times that I would be behind bars negotiating with God. It's funny how when things don't go your way or you get into trouble, you start negotiating with God, whether or not you're a believer or not. Somehow, God, if you get me out of this, God, if you help me here, the negotiation comes into play. And I found myself negotiating in that when you find yourself on your deathbed, when you find yourself where your family's begging you not to die because you have, pretty much OD'd on crystal meth and coke and burned a hole in your esophagus, and you've got tubes coming out of your body that you can't explain because you're a kid, and you're seeing things like never before, and you're finding yourself in negotiations again. You start having those come to Jesus moments. And I knew that if I don't do something different, then I'm going to either end up dead or I'm going to end up back in jail for a really long time, or that's going to be my life for the rest of my life. And so what got me into the biggest platforms and stages on earth was I was always a competitive. I just didn't know how to harness my energy to compete in the right areas, in the right arenas, with the right energy and the right people to elevate my life in a different direction. Because essentially, you have an energy, the yin and yang to everything. And I realized that I had all this potential, all this magic, all this energy, all this zest for life. And I just harnessed it to like the dark side, not to get cheesy and, use movie quotes, but that was just the truth. And so when I realized the law of choice, when I understood what the law of choice was, I was like, oh, wow, I can choose this or that. And the second that anyone else makes the choice for me, I disempower myself. But once I own the choice, good or bad, then I get to make the pathway to my success or my demise. And so I started thinking, well, what am I good at? What do I like? What do I enjoy? What brings a smile on my face? And for me, it was always performing. I used performing as a coping mechanism to get away from bullying and judgment. And that led me to a path of being on the biggest platforms on earth.
Did you grow up dancing?
I did. I did, actually. I was dancing as far back as I can remember. As a little kid, I remember being however small in Colombia. Um, my sister and I, back in the ghetto blasting days, we would sit there and we would write the lyrics to the music in our, cassette tapes and, stop record, cut the tape and, edit and all that fun stuff. And then, we would practice all week long and we'd make performances for when we would meet up with the family on like Sundays or at grandma's or whatever. And then we would sit everybody down and we'd do like this performance and we're always lip singing. And I was always copying Michael Jackson on the TV screen in Colombia and dressing up like him and other characters and like Charlie Chaplin. And, I loved being anybody else but me because I believed that if I could be someone else, people might like me. If I could be anybody except for me, that I might actually live in a world that didn't have pain or hate or judgment or abuse or bullying, and that I might actually end up liking myself. And so I used it and I got good at it.
I was going to ask, when did you make the shift from wanting to be other people so that others would like you to liking yourself enough that it doesn't matter if others like you?
This was at the end of 2018 to 2018, 2019, the last time that I attempted suicide. So that was right before I got into Tony Robbins, into that world. You know, you spend decades building this image, this persona, thinking that, you know, when you get to be this thing or this person or have the accolades, or when you have the fame or recognition or success or money or looks or whatever, that all of a sudden the perception of people is going to change your own perception. And that's not true. You know, and I had built all this, all this energy to this character that I thought that people would love. And, you know, for a while they did. You know, I would have my face on billboards and cabs and magazines, and I'd be on television and videos and, like, you know, like you said, like, you know, some of the biggest stages in the world. And I would have fans and autographs and all this crap. And at the end of the day, when it all came crumbling down, nobody was there. When I got injured in 2018 and I could not produce or perform, and, you know, clubs weren't calling me for the red carpet events and the free bottles and the party and, you know, the drugs and the fun and all the recognition. And you find yourself, you look around and you realize, wow, no one actually cares about the person that's hurting. They only cared about the person that was performing or producing. They cared about the image, and and the truth is that's my fault. I built that person, you know, and it took me a long time to realize that it was never my fault. It was my responsibility. It was my doing. It was my ownership. And when that took place, I remember there were a small handful of people that were still around that I'm very grateful for. But I remember in 2019 for my birthday, I didn't get a single phone call. You would get those like Facebook happy birthday crap, thinking that people that really means something, you know, but not a phone call, not a text from my family.
When's your birthday?
My birthday's March 10th. So yeah, so I didn't get a single phone call or a text or anything like that, and I had just gotten out of the hospital. Because I was performing at that time. I was performing for Cirque du Soleil. I was dancing for Michael Jackson, and I had ruptured two vertebrae, and I had gotten out of the hospital. I could barely move. They had done this procedure of putting these huge epidural needles in my spinal cord so that I could numb the pain. And I remember being in my living room with my dogs, and I was just in horrific pain to where I would army crawl. I would army crawl from my living room to my kitchen, you know, and I had a service dog. I still have a service dog, but the one that passed away, Lila, you know, she would grab me from my shirt, and she would drag me and she would pull me. And I was remembering crawling from my living room couch to my kitchen to get into the refrigerator to feed myself. And I was so tired, and I just stopped. And I remember laying there, and I just started crying. I just started crying, and it was like this flash of like all this glorious stuff that I've done in my life, all these remarkable places that I've been, all the wonderful things I've done for people, the love, the joy, the respect, the smiles, the kindness that I've shown. And I was also a piece of shit, and I was an asshole at the time, in that era. So I remember the hurt that I caused, but it was just like this Rolodex of images. And I was just seeing like this person, but not even being able to identify with this person that I had built, this persona, this character that played all these other characters. And then I just saw myself on my kitchen floor. God, I'm sorry, I'm just remembering this. Wow. I remember being on that kitchen floor, and I was like, I can't believe this is my life. And I looked at my dog, and she looked back at me, and then she licked me. And, you know, I knew at that moment in time that I could not be the piece of shit that I was that landed me on that floor, because what kind of piece of shit human being must I have been to be completely by myself celebrating my life after being injured and having a radical change that shifted everything, and nobody there to support me or help me stand up. And that changed everything. And that moment, they talk about rock bottom. I was on the floor bottom. And then that was what led me to eventually attempting to take my own life. And then by the grace of God, God showed up again, got me out of that place. And I ended up going to a red carpet party event with some friends, and I smoked, snorted, and drank everything that I could get my hands on as my last hurrah. I was doing some horrible things at that club, and at the end of it, I remember getting in my car, behind the wheel of my car, and driving to oncoming traffic, trying to get hit. Blasted the music, rolled down the window, driving just straight into headlights, and thinking that they were my spotlights, that I was on a stage again. And by the grace of God, I woke up in jail the next day. I didn't hurt anybody. I was pulled over. I vaguely remember being in the back of the squad car again and getting locked up again. And I remember my final negotiation with God. And I said, you get me out of this. I swear on everything that's holy, I will dedicate every waking minute that I have to helping people, never feeling what this is like. And I remember bailing myself out with the last bit of money that I had left. I had no income. I was on the verge of bankruptcy. I was about to lose my house. I had no savings. I had no job. I couldn't perform. I could barely walk. And I remember getting released. I bailed myself out. My family didn't come to help. And I remember walking home from downtown Los Angeles County Jail, Las Vegas County Jail, going home, and I turned on my phone after I opened up my little bag of belongings and seeing my mugshot, and I looked at my phone, and I'm walking home, and I turned on my phone, and I go to social media, as one does when you get out of jail. And
priorities.
Priorities. And like, did anybody like my post? What the fuck? And so first post that shows up on Instagram was Tony Robbins UPW discount ticket for an event in Los Angeles. That was November 11th, 2018. And
I was at that event.
And I remember figuring out, that was like $697 or something like that for that ticket online. And I had like $763 in my bank account. And I just bought it walking home. And I was like, God, please help me figure out how I'm going to make less than $100 last from November to March 14th. And by the grace of God, by being resourceful, by being hungry for change, I showed up, and life has never been the same.
Why March 14th? Did you hear me?
Oh, no, you froze.
Oh, I said, why March 14th?
That was the day of the event.
Oh, so it was in 2019.
2019.
Oh, okay. I was not at that event, actually. But we were in the same date with Destiny later that year. So cut to, you became a senior leader. You joined Platinum Partner. This is a huge jump. For anyone who doesn't know, Tony Robbins Platinum Partnership is like $100,000 minimum to join for a year. So how did you go from, I have no money in my account, I'm on the verge of bankruptcy, I'm doing everything in my power to get to just one event, hoping it'll be the thing that changes everything, to the clients that you've created and called in, the friendships that you've created, the growth that you've had? Keep telling the story. I'm here for the ride. I got popcorn.
In a nutshell, if I were to create a success formula of what escalated my growth, was I attribute it to, 1, staying consistent, 2, adding as much value as humanly possible, more than anybody else was willing to do, 3, being radically authentic and honest in taking ownership for everything, turning every pointed finger back on its end to me, and realize that I am the cause and the creator of everything. And when I took radical responsibility for all the good, the bad, and the ugly, I was able to empower myself to create change. I understood what some of the concepts we teach is the law of choice, the law of questions, understanding what that means and how to utilize them, conditioning habits, pushing through when you really don't want to, and having an insatiable hunger to want to help, to want to create something. Because if I could go back, and even now, if I say like I want to create things for me, sure, that's true, but I don't get nearly as far, or I do as much good, and I don't reap the reward truly as to when I think outside of myself and I say, God, how can I help this? How can I fix that? How can I improve this? How can I be a vessel of good? And I would say those, obviously this is a nutshell overview of some of the things that have helped me there. And also, also is not being too proud to beg, to ask for help, and to roll up your sleeves and get your elbows dirty. Because there was a time where I was the guy on the street with a sign asking for change, and I had to tuck my tail between my legs and let go of my ego. And when somebody says, I'll never do that, then you will never get that. And when I realized the power in saying, you know what, even right now, God forbid, I'm not saying this literally, so just, you already know me. But so I'm just saying that, if something, God forbid, were to happen and everything were to go away, and I only had, so long as they don't take my dog, I'm good. But take away where I live, the cars, any level of success or impact, or being able to reach to people, and you put me on the street, so long as I got my dog, I'm going to get right back here. Because I know that I will find a way to help other people achieve whatever they want, one way or another, and just by default, by law of reciprocity and law of magnetism and all universal laws, God will come down. He will send Jesus and the Holy Spirit. He will walk by my side to carry my burdens, and he will carry me through to the gates of heaven. So whatever that means to anybody else, to me, it means I don't have to worry about shit anymore.
And so you give this final negotiation to God that you will turn your life around and be of service. Walk me through the process of getting that first client, turning this intention into an actual mission and business.
Yeah, no, great question. So I, if I go back to the very beginning, I built my first program in 1991. I was 11 years old. And what I mean by that program is because I was a dancer, we created a dance crew of kids, getting kids off drugs. We were sponsored by the DARE program. We figured out how my mom became our manager. We had squad cars. It's funny, the first time I was ever in squad cars, it was because they were escorting us from school to school as we were doing red ribbon rallies and drug awareness rallies, while we were going out there and being the speakers and the performers to help other people understand what it was to better their life. At 11 years old, I was doing this. And so throughout my whole life, at one point or another, mainly through entertainment, I was always coaching. I was always helping improve people's lives through performance. However, I had already built all these skills and I didn't know it. And when it came to getting my first, let's call it my first personal development client in the civilian world, which is what I consider non-artistic people and like the people that are in like the 9-to-5 grind. So that happened. And you said this earlier when we started. I don't know what kind of coach I am sometimes I even, if I'm totally authentic and transparent, sometimes I struggle with what is the glorified title we give ourselves? How do I introduce myself? What is it that I say that I do for people? I'm using my AI right now to say it in a concise way that it sounds important to someone to know that I can produce the results that they're looking for, so that they can trust in me to hire me, and yada yada, all the fun shit that goes into this industry. But the way that I got my first client was because I was on social media on cloud nine, boasting about everything that I was learning and being a student of it and practicing. And I was sharing my trials and errors and my fuck ups and my tears and this and that. And somebody out of nowhere, a friend of mine that was in the dance world in Vegas, she reached out and she goes, JJ, she's like, something's in you, something's changed. It's like, what are you on, and how can I get some? I want whatever you're on. And I wrote her back and I was like, well, first of all, I'm not on anything, right? But second of all, I'm doing different things and I'm approaching life differently. And then we kind of talked back and forth, and she was telling me where she's at in her life. And who the hell am I to try to help somebody transform their life from a business perspective, finance perspective, outside of mindset? I can inspire, a chimpanzee, but what I realized is there's other skill sets that come into helping somebody in their business or in their, relationship or their faith or their finances and things like that. There's, actual tactical skills that you need. And so I told her, I said, look, I said something along the lines of like, if you really want to know, come to my house on Sunday at this time and I'll show you what I'm doing. And sure enough, she showed up. And we sat there and I poured it into her like I was Tony Robbins, and I was excited and I was regurgitating words that I had just barely learned. And I said, look, and I tried this and I did that and yada, yada. But if you do this and then your psychology and you change your language and then the power of proximity and then, here's your triad and yada, yada. And I'm just like, right. And I was just hungry to just like, this works, and she just kept coming back, and she just radically changed her life. And she picked up and quit her job. She sold her house. She picked up her dog. She went on the Appalachian Trail and hiked it for months. And she went on this self-discovery journey. And then she was keeping in touch. And I was giving her mindset tips and this and that, and still coaching her for months. And then she met her now fiance. I think they might be married now, on the trail. And then she moved to New York, I believe. And then she wanted to write her book. And then she started writing, and all, like, it was this whole different woman. And I was like, oh my God. I was so blown away and I was so excited. It was like this rush, this dopamine hit of just grace and beauty. And I was just so grateful for God, because I remember being behind bars and saying that negotiation, and I was like, God, I want more of this. And then one led to two led to four, and then I remember, I think I charged like $100 for like 6 months. I was like, it was $111 or something like that, right? 3 months or 6 months.
Obviously.
Yeah, because it had to be a number. It's like numerology. I was still with my sage and my crystals and my and I was like in the full moon and the blood moon and, with like my sun sign and this and that. And I was like, okay, because my numerology and my astrology and this and that and yada, yada. And I was worshiping. This was before I really truly found my faith and went back to God. And I was like, if I could sing Kumbaya loud enough. And then I was like, if I got my journey in plant medicine and all this chakra alignment, and I'm like, like $111. Yes, everybody's going to show up. Yeah, sure. Like, we had a few people come in and we started transforming their lives. And then that turned into 600, then 1,000, then 5, then 10, then 20. Then it was just like, wow. And every experience and every month and every year, I would just immerse myself in every bit of psychology, human development, mind set, skills, healing modalities, NLP, hypnotherapy, like whatever I could get my hands on, with no certifications, no schooling, Nobody to pat me on the back and say, good job. But it was just to go back and go in my heart and go back to God and go into my life and say, how did I get here? And reverse engineer it, and then be around people that were a gazillion times smarter than me, that had already done it, and look at their frameworks and dissect them and test them and see, does this work for me? Well, this didn't work for me here, but this worked here. And then kind of itemize them and stack them, and then figure out, how can I create my own method that I can help people, and how can I lead other people to the people that I learned from? Because God knows that I'm only so smart. I'm humble enough to know that there are other people that can do something better and more efficient and faster than and if me leading someone to that person gets them their goal, then that's my job. I need to connect them. I can't be the person that says, oh, I can do it all and I can fix you and I can help you and I can guide you. No, that's not what it's about. So what you said earlier is, I'm not a coach because I claim I am. I got my coaching clients because it's who I am. It's what I do. It's what I live. It's what I embody. And if I can take people along the journey, then it feels good.
One of the trends that I notice in everyone's life who has been able to build something meaningful is the habit of investing in themselves and continuously up-leveling who they surround themselves with and who they're learning from. So talk to me about deciding to become a senior leader, and then the decision. You said you were a platinum partner at one point?
Still am.
Still am.
Yeah.
And then the decision to make that leap as well, because it's not a small yes.
Yeah. So to get to senior leader, I didn't go to school. I don't have a formal education. The world has been my education. Luckily, because I was a performer and I was choreographing and dancing for major celebrities and shows and events, I got to travel the world, and I got to see a lot of parts of the world that the average person doesn't, in a way that the average person would never, because you are in a different category that gets privilege, if you will. And so in that, I took the world as my school. And I realized very early on, because I've been on my own since 15, I've had no formal education. I had to be ridiculously resourceful in order to be able to survive on the streets and get to where I'm at. And so I realized the power of proximity isn't power at all. If you leverage your proximity, it turns into power. But many people are around the same people I am and don't have near the results or have the access or the connections, but they have power proximity. They didn't leverage the proximity to create power. And when I learned those skills, I said, okay, well, I have to invest myself, or I have to invest my time, energy, and money in those around me that have done it better than me and that are doing it at a higher level than me, because I encourage myself and anyone else to be the dumbest person in the room. That's how you learn the fastest, right? Forget your ego, be the dumbest person in the room, and do it with a smile. Go in there and be like, I know nothing and I want to learn everything, and just go and be hungry, And so in that, when I got into the Tony world, I saw the progression of people that I was looking at and modeling, and there was just this, this momentum of growth, and came being a participant to coming and crewing and giving back, and the evolution of it. If you truly want to grow and get more skills and more knowledge, then you go and invest a whole lot more time, energy, and a lot of money to then learn the skills, to then get promoted to being a senior leader. And then you devote a lot of time to even get to trainer, which is the track that I'm on right now. And then as far as the platinum partners is, that's like an elite group of people and inner circle membership that is a significant amount. It's like by the end all be all, you end up investing probably on a low scale $150K in that year to just be in that proximity and go to the events and participate and learn. And I remember year after year, I just kept giving myself the excuses. I'm sitting here as senior leader. I am leading other people to get out of their comfort zone and to go for what they want and their belief systems and change their life and this and that. And, for 4 years straight, I kept saying, God, I'm going to become a platinum partner. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And every single time I didn't do it because a limiting belief of I didn't have the money. And believe me, I didn't have the money. Kept stopping me until one day, which was last year, at Date with Destiny. I remember not this one that just came on, but the one before. I remember being a senior leader, and I was leading the team, and we were doing an exercise of dream big, and I had written down all the things that I was dreaming about. And again, here's another time that I wrote down, I'm going to be a platinum partner. And then I looked at my book and I realized that it was a bunch of horse shit. That's not 4 years I've written that down, and I never once accomplished it. And I remember we were sitting in the back of the room, the convention room, and the platinum booth was over here. And I had just done Funnel Hacking Live previously, to where I had applied for my very first platinum Amex card. I'd never done that, so I didn't know what a charge card was. I didn't know that you actually had to pay the full amount at the end of the month, like unlike a regular credit card, right? Because I don't really do credit cards. I didn't really have great credit, but somehow I applied and I got approved, and I was so excited because I had this platinum thing that everybody was talking about, and so I had a platinum card that I had never used in my pocket. And I remember sitting at Date with Destiny, and I was looking at my journal, and it said, I'm going to be a platinum partner, and then I scratched it out because I was being dramatic, and then I closed the book, threw it on the chair, and I was trying to see, make sure that I wasn't causing a scene because I was so mad. And then I was a senior leader, so I had to set an example. And then I walked and I stormed all the way to the back, and I was like, screw it. This is my year. I don't have a single dollar to my name right now, but I don't care. I'm going to figure it out. And I went back and I talked to Joanne, and she was like, yeah, sure. You can, it's $85,000 to sign up. And I was like, oh my God. And so she goes, but you can, make a deposit of like 15,000, which I don't have. And so she was giving me all these ways. And I looked back at my team that I was leading as they're sitting there writing diligently about their dreams. And I was like, if I don't do this, I'm going to be the biggest hypocrite. And by damn, I'm a coach by leader, by leading by example. And I took out my card, and I was like this moment. I was like, I have a platinum card, and I had some platinum partners, of course, because the chakras align, and the moon and the stars and the sage and the kumbaya. And it was like, the universe was telling me, and this was before, again, going back to God. So I was like, the signs, right? And so then I handed my platinum card.
God has signs too.
Yeah, right. So, but this is my interpretation at the time. So I was like, it's like, my energy, my chakras, and this, and I was naming all these things that it was. And so I was like, you know what, this is the time. And I handed the platinum card to her, and she goes to grab it, and I'm clenching onto it. She's like, tug of war, and she lets go. And I was like, just charge it. And then she goes, $85,000. Boom, declined. I was like, damn. And I was like, okay, try 50 grand. Boom, decline. I was like, I knew it. It wasn't for me.
Did you know what your limit was?
No, I never had one of those cards. It just said spending power. Check your spending power. I thought
you had to spend like $100K per month to have one of those.
Yeah, no, like, I don't know how I got it. I have no idea how I got it. I didn't have the credit for it. I just got it because I wanted to buy something at Funnel Hacking Live, but by the time that I got it, I couldn't buy the thing at Funnel Hacking Live. And so I ended up having this card that it still had the little sticker on it, activate now by calling 1-800 whatever, right? And so then I went in, and then I was like, fine, just 30 grand. Just charge 30 grand. Beep, accepted. I was like, what? And she was like, yeah, congratulations. Welcome to Platinum Partners. I was like, oh my God, like I'm boarding like a, first class plane or whatever, and that I was about to take off. And I was like, okay, well, I was like, put 15 grand to my deposit, and then put 10 grand to my first trip, and then put 5 grand towards my first monthly payment, because it's like $6,000 a month. And I was like, I have no clue how I'm going to pay anything left after this. I was like, if this is all it, she's like, well, when would you like to start? I was like, not right now, because I need to make money. Right. And so
you can wait.
Yeah. So I didn't start until like May. Right. That was in December. I didn't start like until May. But funny enough.
And then they'll start charging you in May?
Yeah. once you start, then they start charging. She was like, so you want us to hold your money? I was like, you already got it out of my credit card. I was like, don't give it back to me. I'll spend it. I was like, I got 30
I
grand.
don't have it.
Yeah. I was like, you have it. You're my bank. And so
Yeah. You hold it.
Yeah. So they held it or whatever. And by the grace of God, a week later, I got a beautiful phone call from somebody that I had met at the event at Date with Destiny that wanted to hire me as a coach. And I remember, I remember that I had gotten the bill from Amex because they said, you've got 1 week to pay $30,000, because I didn't know that you couldn't pay it in payments. You have to pay off the entire balance. And so I was like, God, what did I get myself into? And then like a week, 2 weeks later, I got a phone call from somebody that I met, which ended up hiring me as a coach. They paid my fee, which is well over the 30 grand. And as soon as I got that client, I paid that bill, which opened up more space to pay the next slew of months for my platinum partners. And that's how it started.
So good. All right, let's talk about pricing.
Yeah.
Talk about the evolution of your psychology to go from $100 for 6 weeks or months or whatever it was to feeling like you are in integrity and in the frequency of a 30K package. Because raising prices is something that comes up all the time inside my group coaching containers.
Yeah. So 30 grand was like for me 2 years ago. So it's already evolved. And what I teach my clients as well, you don't start with pricing what you think you're worth. You start pricing what it's going to cost them not to get the results they're looking for. If you can offset from just sales psychology, if you can figure out that your price isn't a cost, but it isn't a liability, but it's an asset, it's an investment, it's securing the cost of inaction, then you're going to be able to be in alignment with what your offer is. And then also there's other factors, the market, will there be pushback? Do you believe that you're worth that value? And I would never start there, because when we're starting out, it's like, oh my God, I want to price something at like 10,000. It's like, who's going to pay me 10,000 to do this? It's like, no, like you have to actually say, okay, well, what problem are you solving? How do you go into that? What will it cost that person in the same frame time that you can help them get out of that pain? What will it cost them to stay in that pain for that same amount of time, or same amount of pain for that same amount of time? Right. And if you can equate it by a dollar value, and the life coaching and emotional coaching and things like that is a very hard sell, because it's a very hard metric to grade, as opposed to like business coaching, where they have a dollar value that, okay, well, I'm going to invest $100,000 here so that I can make, $500,000 there. That's measurable. You can still measure emotions, you can still measure mindset, but it's a lot more challenging than it is a dollar return, And so what I encourage anybody to do is say, okay, well, one of my first clients, it's like their marriage was falling apart. Their kids hated them. They were overweight, and they hated life. And so in that process, they weren't going to work. They were missing out on days. Their paychecks were diminishing. They were seeing the significant hit in their life, in the quality of life, in their ability to pay for their life, and the decay of their relationship with their spouse, and the friction with their kids. And so I said, okay, well, can I equate that to a dollar value? And so when I started going from that approach, and I said, okay, well, look, in 6 months working with me, we can fix X, Y, Z that's going to optimize your life and your thinking and your relationships in X, Y, Z way. Or it's going to, by looking at your paycheck and the decline of this and the fights and this and that, you're going to end up paying this much in divorce, this much in child therapy, this much is not coming in from your check anymore because you hate your job and your boss ain't paying for lack of production or producing. So this is what it's actually going to cost you in 6 months. Or you can pay this and then save that. What would you like to do? So it wasn't
Love
based
it.
on what I thought I was worth.
Mm-hmm.
It was based on how can I find the leverage point so that they can realize that if you don't have skin in the game and enough skin in the game, I mean, how many memberships do we have that we really don't look at and that we pay anyways and we don't really participate in? How many programs, how many events, how many even coaches have we purchased that when it's a decent amount of money but not hurtful money,
Yeah.
you don't show up?
Yeah.
So that's what I would say.
Who do you typically work with now?
That is the 100% big question. Oh, that is give me 1 second. Oh, I forgot I have another call right now.
Oh, should we bring it home?
Yeah, I have another client for my bad. I was so engaged in this conversation. Give me 1 second. They just texted me 5 minutes. Okay. So who do I work with now? That's a great question. So right now, the thing that I do the most is I help people get out of the life that they're in and into the life that they want. And I'm still refining the messaging of what that is from an industry perspective so that people can understand their pain point. Because everything that I do is conversational based. People that know about me, people that have talked to me, that I have encountered in a networking event, and that I sit in dialogue and find out where are they. And then I assess if where they're at and where they want to go is something that I can help them get a lot quicker with a lot less heartache and making it more affordable, even with my price, even with the investment that it takes to work with me. And so to answer your question is, those that find themselves in a major gap of stagnation, that don't have that courage or that those conditioned habits that need the kick in the ass. A lot of people buy into people's stories and they keep them there. That's why I don't believe that therapy works for majority of the human race. There's some really great therapists, but the model in which I believe in is I want to give you every bit of tools that I have so you don't need me, so that there's no use for me anymore. However, I'm constantly and always evolving and learning. And once you get to the place that I helped get you, or that I helped guide you to get yourself to, I'm already 10 steps ahead your next level. So if you want to get to the next place, you're going to want to work with me anyways, because I'm going to get you to that next level. And that's what I do. I help people get to the next level, whether it be through your fun of your life, family relationships, through your finances, business, mission, purpose, career, whether it be your fitness, your health, vitality, energy, or it be your faith, whatever that may be, whether it be your follower of Christ or you want to believe in chakras and stones and, ayahuasca and other fun stuff. I have no hate for anything. I believe that there's use for everything, and I just help you get to that next level.
I want to point out for anyone listening how JJ admitted that he's refining the elevator pitch if we need to have an elevator pitch, if we're going to call it an elevator pitch. And yet it doesn't stop him from coaching. It doesn't stop people from coming to him. And so, JJ, I know you need to go. We got to wrap it up. Tell people where to find you. Tell people where they can get your book.
Actually, I will tell you right now, because this is actually where I'm at. In refining the pitch, this is, you have, and I get it. It's marketing, it's branding, it's perceived value. Everybody has to do this. I'm just being transparent with you to let you know, I know the shit that I do. I know what I do.
People feel your energy. They opt in.
Yeah. I know what I do. However, you have to do it in language that will hit to the person that wants to work with you, because that's just how the world works. And you have to play the game. And so right now I have programmed an AI. I have my AI coach, which is phenomenal. This is a new beta program that I'm testing with new clients. AI powered coaching is beautiful. But according to my AI coach, I am a high-level success and business leadership coach, confidence expert, and transformational speaker who helps entrepreneurs, business owners, and leaders break through subconscious barriers, master their execution, and elevate their leadership so they can scale their business impact and personal power effortlessly.
Woo.
That is a mouthful that I got to refine and get into my nervous system. So when I say to somebody, oh, well, what do you do? Well, this is what I do. Bam! Yeah. So, but it's the game. It's just the game. So
it is. We get to decide if we want to play it. And if you're listening to the show, you probably want to play the game.
Yeah. So you can find out more information about all this wonderful stuff in this glorious kick-ass book. Right here is Next Life Next. Right. It is Starting Made Simple. Right. And it helps you to how to be brave. Brave is an acronym of the steps that we kind of covered here. It is with my beautiful and stunning co-author, best friend, my better half, my roommate. She's amazing. Her name is Marja Simon. She is the other half of this mastermind masterpiece that we have created, this beautiful book. And I don't say that because we wrote it. It took us a year to write this, to actually figure out and test it. Does it actually work? So this is not a reading book. This is a doing book that you can find on Amazon. So I encourage anybody that if you really want to get to that next level, read it. But if you really kind of read through it and quickly, you didn't get the point of the book, because there's a lot of work that you got to do in every single page. But yeah, so that started our mastermind, which we have a beautiful mastermind community of elite thought leaders of all different niches in different areas, in spaces in this beautiful planet that we're in, that we all help each other, hold each other accountable to elevate our lives. And that's, that's me in a small nutshell of awesome sauce.
And we'll have all of JJ's social links and website and all the things that you can get more information in the show notes. So thank you, JJ, for being here. So nice getting to connect with you. And I'm sure this will not be our last conversation.
Absolutely. I am glad to be here. Thank you so much for bringing me on. I hope that everyone got some type of value out of this. And I will leave you with this beautiful nugget that has helped me elevate my life. If you can believe and understand, like the law of gravity, this one statement, I am where I am because I choose to be here, then you get to make the choice of where you want to be. That right there has changed and revolutionized my life. Whether it's good or it's bad, whether something happens to you or for you, whether it is suffering, painful, great, exciting, whatever it is, you get to make the choice in a split second. If I am where I am because I choose to be here, do I choose to be here? That answer will change your life. So you can find me on Instagram at @TheRealJJVillar, or call this beautiful woman to call me and whatever, because she's going to be coming out to Miami to visit me.
Cut!
All right. Love you. Got to go.
Thank you, JJ.
Talk to you soon.
Thank you so much to JJ for that heartfelt interview. Hopefully you guys got some incredible nuggets out of that. I super enjoyed our conversation. And if you want to get access to JJ's book, if you want to go follow him on social media and learn more about all the amazing things that he's doing inside his coaching business, then head over to theprofitablecoach.com/069. There you can get all the links to everything we talked about in today's episode. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we will catch you next week.